This is the Limitless Faith, His Will, My Desire podcast show, episode number 20. Our show is about inspiring, encouraging, and impacting the apostolic community to embrace the calling of God and showing the world that the best life is living for Jesus through the power of testimony. You don't want to miss out on your blessings, so be sure to follow us and subscribe. God bless Limitless Faith family. Hope you guys are having a wonderful week so far and a beautiful start to your weekend. So happy Friday to each and every one of you. And for those that are new to the channel, my name is Javier Henao Jr., host of the podcast show. And welcome back to another episode this week. I'm excited for the guest that we're going to have on the show, sharing his testimony, Brother Isaac Cowden. He's going to be sharing his heart as a worship leader. He's going to be sharing about the necessities, the essential aspects of what it takes to be a worship leader, to invest in your team, to take time of not only practicing to get ready for Sunday worship, for any services, but also creating the habits of coming together for prayer, for Bible study, to dive in, and to hold each other accountable, to be able to make sure communication is there. He's going to be going over very, very important items that I think will be a blessing to anyone that feels an aspiration or feels that calling to be part of a worship ministry, to be part of a worship team, and maybe you're already part of one. So I recommend that you take notes, listen. If you can't watch this, find the time to listen. You can find us on any of the podcast platforms. But very, very important. I highly recommend that you try to watch or listen to the full episode if you can. But also, I do want to apologize in advance because there are small little parts in the episode where on my side, didn't realize it, but I would freeze up a little bit. You're going to hear my voice, but you'll see that I will freeze up. So it sounds like at moments I'm just talking, but nothing's going on my end. So I apologize for that, but I promise you it's a great episode. It's going to be a huge blessing if you take the time to listen to it. So before we jump right into it, remember, smash that like button, make sure that you're following us, make sure that you're staying up to date with the latest episode. And remember, we're a bilingual channel. We've got episodes coming out in English and Spanish, testimony stories of real people, sharing real stories, reflecting God's glory in their life and the transformation that He does and what He's doing behind the scenes today. So please make sure to share this with your friends, your family. It's a word of encouragement, and also share it with people who may have doubt of who Jesus is. And it's a great opportunity for people to see that He does exist. He is real. Our testimonies are a crucial part of the evidence of God's existence, I would say. So love you guys. Make sure to leave a comment below. Have any feedback, let us know. And let's jump right into it. Let's listen to Brother Isaac Cowden's testimony. And all right, here we go. Brother Isaac Cowden, thank you so much for being on the show today, man. How you doing?
I'm good, bro. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, man. I'm excited. To, first off, that we're going to jump into your story here today. And I think for all of our viewers and listeners, Isaac and I went to school together at IBC. And I know literally for the most part, 90% of who I've interviewed so far, all at IBC. Bro, I haven't interviewed anyone from Urshan or CLC yet. Nothing against them. I will. I just don't know anyone there, you know? So IBC has been on
Facebook saying, hey, my name is Javi. I run a podcast. Can I interview you?
So far, everyone's from IBC, but it's first off, I think, I do want people to know we do have different Bible colleges like Urshan and Christian Life College. And I think, what do we got? Texas Bible College too, possibly,
ABI,
right?
Yeah.
So like there's so many different ones out there. And, but IBC is where I got to meet so many people that I hold on to and great friendship. So Isaac, you are in Columbus, Ohio, man. I'm excited to jump into your story. So before we really focus on what you're doing today, I got to ask you that question. for where everything started. What was that beginning? But before we really do, I like to start off with prayer, man.
Absolutely.
I fully believe that every story, every testimony that is on the show is an opportunity for people, all of our viewers and listeners, whether they're in church or not, to see uh, the awesome and greatness that God does behind the scenes in our lives, right? So, and at some point, we can relate to different things we've all gone through, even though we have a unique story in its own way.
Sure.
So, if you're okay, would you be okay with leading in prayer?
Absolutely, bro. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Let's jump into it.
Absolutely. Lord Jesus, I pray over this interview right now. God, I pray that whatever is said in this place right now, that it would touch somebody for your good. I pray right now that you would take the attention off of me and Javi, and that you would put the eyes and ears of the people onto you, Jesus. I pray whatever is happening, God, that it would direct everything back to you and the goodness and the greatness of your name. And I thank you, God, for everything you've done for us. And thank you, God, for allowing us to our friendship to be rekindled right here in this interview. And I thank you, Jesus. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Awesome, bro. Thank you so much for doing that.
Amen.
So, first big question, where did it start for you? Were you born in the church, or were you raised really in the church? Or did at some point someone come to you and say, hey, man, here's the gospel, and I want you to know who Jesus is?
So for me, I always look at it as a little bit of both, because here's to answer the question simply, I was raised in church, but the time that I actually made the decision for myself was way later on in life. And I think that for some people, it might be easy to say that, I was raised in this is all I know, and do that. But I would like to always give credit to God that he had me find him on my own without the influence of family ties. Because the thing is, if I just base serving God based on the tradition of family, then therefore how many families out there that, are in so many other denominations and whatnot, and how many people are so in so many other things that they feel like that would be right, because it's the tradition of family. And I think that in order for me to actually know what I know, I had to find God for myself. And so, yes, I was raised in it, but then at the same time, I did have to find God. And if someone doesn't have the answer for that, then they probably haven't found him on their own.
Right.
And still probably going off of the version that they've been taught. Which is not bad. It's just that it's not as solidifying, and it's not as good of a foundation as it could be. When you believe in something that somebody else teaches you, rather than knowing from the trials that you've experienced and knowing that that's the real thing. So I found God for myself, bro. But I did start off with it with my family. But going into that, I started when I was I was in church all the way until I was about 17 years of age. And then when I finally got some freedom on my own, because there was a lot of my dad, he did really good with running a strict house. He did well with that. But the only problem is that it made me, when the moment I got a little bit of freedom, bro, like I ran with it, my dude. I ran with it. And so it was good and bad at the same time for me, because I just, as soon as there was a crease in the door, bro, I was out. So I ended up, I was still kind of in church, but I really wasn't actually in church. And by in church is just really, I was serving myself more than I was serving God. And
right.
And so I was gracing the doors of the church, but I wasn't in church, and I think there's a really big difference there for people as well, to kind of ask themselves on a deeper level that, you just got to look at it. But the thing that kind of changed it for me, man, the first time really that I really found like that one place that I said, man, I think I want to like be here for a while, is when, or be in this place and have this like feeling for a while. I actually ended up, I was playing for a conference actually in Ohio, and man, the Lord, like at one point in time, bro, I was playing, and up until that point, I had always seen people that were involved in like the music ministry. If the Lord started moving on them, they felt like they had to like stop playing, and then the music would stop and things like that. And so really a lot of the beginning portion of my thought process was, how can I maintain an atmosphere of worship like in a place, and then also still receive, within myself, and bro, like there was a moment that I asked God. I was like, okay, like, and the thing is, bro, I had forgotten about asking him. Like, so I asked him at one point in time when my heart was right. I asked him, and then I went back to being an idiot or whatever else. And then, and then I finally got, I found myself in a place, bro, and I was at this conference and I started playing, bro. And then I just felt his spirit. And it felt like my brain, like half of it shut off and went to like receive what he was doing. And then the other half was just able to still maintain what I was doing, like on the piano. And it was like one of the best feelings ever. And I knew immediately that God had like answered that prayer that I had prayed like years ago, bro, years ago.
Right.
And so that was one of the first things I was like, okay, like I want to stay here, because it's not only like for me, it wasn't just about giving and giving to somebody else so somebody else could receive, but I also in that moment was receiving as well. And so that was one of the first ones. So that was one of the first times that I realized, okay, I want to find out more about this. And there's a lot more stories, man. But as far as like the beginning, like that's
where it starts.
That's where it's kind of like the beginning of it. Yeah. I mean, it's rough because I feel like I was a late bloomer because I was in church and I was doing it. Thing is, man, when you start getting on the platform, you start playing and stuff, it's easy for you to get lost in the mix of all of that, because as far as lost in the crowd to other people's eyes, like other people will say, oh, Isaac is good because I see him up there playing for like an HYC or whatever else, In Kentucky, we didn't have a whole lot of, musicians or whatnot. So me and my brother started playing conferences when he was 15, 16 years old, And so, it was, I seen that and then, kind of got in the mix of that. But at the same time, I wasn't spiritually feeding myself, all like I could have. It was not until after I left there and I was actually in Columbus. It was probably the summer of my second summer of being in IBC is when I really decided for myself, I think I want to be a part of this and more than just a musician. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Wow, man. That's there's a lot of good stuff you mentioned that I kind of want to unpack a little here, and it's not like a rabbit trail, because I do think these are important topics. And the first thing that came to my mind when you had mentioned how when you're playing up there, that question, how do I'm a part of helping keep the environment of worship, leading the people to worship God. But then how do I receive? Because I'm not that I'm playing music, but I can only imagine in your mind and everyone that's a part of the worship team, you're counting the rhythm, you're listening to this person, you're listening to that. Okay, are they on pitch, off pitch? Are we on? Okay, then we go in, or we stop, or whatever. Yeah. So I remember talking to one of my young people, and he plays the drums at my church, and he's really the one playing the drums all the time. Yeah. And we've talked about it a little bit, but I never know how to kind of help him in that area, because I'm like, okay, well, how do I lead them in that? Because I know that's important. He needs to receive. He needs to be a part of that worship. He needs to be a part of praying, So like when you say like literally your half of your brain was just focused on you and God, just you and him, and then the other half was automatic, like muscle memory. Is that what it was? Did it feel like muscle memory to you? Is that what happened?
Yeah, for me, it felt like that, man. It felt that, and even changing, like doing changes and whatnot, like if we were changing a different part of a song, and man, I heard one time, it was crazy. We had an evangelist, David Smith, he came in and visited, and bro, it was the first time I heard this statement mentioned really out loud. I'll tell you one of my favorite stories about being a musician.
Yeah.
I'm not going down a rabbit trail, but I just want to say one of my favorite inspirational like people in the Bible is David, because as being a musician and a leader and a king, all in one, like, hit the timeline of his life, bro, coming from taking care of the sheep where nobody knows you to killing a giant. So therefore you get all the credit from doing a huge exploit, and then to having the responsibility of being a leader and being a king, like there's so many, we've seen in David's life how he went through like all different phases of where people sometimes just stay like in one phase, sometimes,
that's true.
Just one phase of life, and so, it was, I looked to him as a very, very, very good example on that, because I mean, he's what you would call in the Bible, one of the top musicians, the chief musician, the Bible calls him. And so going to Evangelist David Smith, we were playing one time, and this is after, the Lord had already done that miracle for me, but we were playing, and it was just the musicians playing during a point in time where service was rolling, bro. I mean, we were rolling. It was just, we weren't playing shout music, but bro, we were just playing some things just to set the atmosphere, set that moment. And bro, it was, he got in the mic, man, and he said, some of y'all need to he was talking to the people. He said, some of y'all need to take an advantage of this moment. The musicians are prophesying, bro. There was no words being spoken, bro. But he said the musicians are prophesying. And I thought about the weight of that. I'm like, what would that mean? Like when we prophesy, when we can speak without words, And so I've always dove into David and what his mindset was. And my first thought was whenever he played for Saul, whenever Saul had an evil spirit, they called in, they tried everything they could, and they found out David was a musician. And this is before David had all the accolades or anything else, And so they found out David was a musician, and he came and played for Saul, and the Bible says that the evil spirit departed.
Right.
And when I think of it, I mean, he could have sang, because he was a lyricist as well. But I always like to think of in the time of, what if David didn't need a lyric at all?
Yeah.
And what if he could have played and the evil spirit could have departed and set an atmosphere that the enemy was uncomfortable in? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that right there is a very, very powerful thing, because I don't think that when there's not a lot of opportunities in the Bible, I understand, and I'm 1000% for a preached word. And that's what we need. We need the word preached to us, and whether it's in song or on the pulpit or just in our everyday lives, I believe that we fully 100% need the word, and to live by the word, and to live it 100%. But when I thought of, how powerful what does it mean for us to be in a place where we don't sing a lyric, and yet the evil spirit and the enemy is not comfortable in the place that we are that we are in. So, it was one thing when he said that, bro. I did that research on that, and the thought that came to my mind is that, well, so if music being the number one most powerful influencer right now, I mean, it's bigger than anything that we have access to. Music is the number one thing that everyone has in common. Everyone in the world listens to music. Everyone in the world. Right. It doesn't matter, because there's so many things that fit what you want to do, or that fit your spirit. And so I thought to myself, I said, what if our mindset wasn't in the right place when we play music, or when we prophesy, as brother David said. And I thought, David, if he wasn't in the right place, he could have either driven out the evil spirit, or he could have invited more to come join him. And I thought to myself, I said, because I always teach my musicians, I said, this is like right now, this is you playing is not like the highlight of this. Right. You are playing so you can change lives. Yeah. And I used to do this a lot when I first came to Calvary, because that's the name of my church, Calvary. But when I first came to Calvary, bro, I used to almost every time there'd be something happening in the altar, or somebody getting while we were playing in the altar call, I'd say, hey, look, that person over there just got it. That person over there just got it. What I wanted to do is give the musicians the responsibility of their mindset and say, you are responsible right now in your spirit for you to be right so somebody else can be blessed. That's 100%. And so I don't think that we think about that a whole lot. Sometimes we just get caught up in the chords. And so that's why I try to have the musicians not use chord charts because I want them to pay attention to their surroundings around in their service. And it takes a while. Like I had this, I struggle with musicians with, I tell you, it all started with our kids church. They had a vision that they wanted a lot of their kids to start, and the kids were wanting to be musicians. They wanted to play. They had the desire themselves. And so our children's pastor legit just asked me, he said, hey, you know what? You think that this is good? I'm like, bro, I love this. I think that this is awesome. Let's make this happen. So on Sunday mornings after church, bro, they would stay after with them, and they have their own little kids sanctuary, and they would have a little practice. And I mean, the little kids get on this little rinky dink drum set, have a acoustic guitar, have these little toy pianos, and bro, they would play for hours, bro, doing that. And bro, what we don't realize is that Skip, 4.5 years later, the drummer that was that little kid is one of my main drummers now. Like,
oh wow,
that's awesome. my main guitarist and my acoustic guitarist, like they're from that group, bro. Like the people in my band are young, like they're very young. So what I wanted to do was I wanted to give them the responsibility when they first came in to know, okay, we're not just doing this so we can sound sick, or we're not doing this just so we could be cool and for our friends. Like those are aspects that are just naturally you're going to feel. And like, obviously musicians be like, man, this is really good that we're doing right now. But really the ultimate thing is that we're doing this so somebody down there can get the Holy Ghost, or that we can drive out evil spirits if we needed to, and set the atmosphere for the enemy to be uncomfortable. So
dude, that's good stuff right there. And really, you know what, we can really focus this whole episode on this topic. And right now, literally right now, I've got like a couple different questions / comments about it. Cause when I had, and I'm not going to go into just yet, because I do want to backtrack a little bit and kind of go back to you, that special moment between you and God. But okay, so let's do that, because if not, I'm tempted to jump into it. So backtracking a little bit now. Okay, so at the age of 17, that special moment between you and God, right? That kind of intimate personal experience. So you had mentioned essentially you grew up in the church. So, okay, you grew up in the church, but you didn't really have like a personal experience until that moment, even though you're on the platform now. Yeah. And now you were having this intimate experience with the Lord. So would you say, like, while you were growing up, like you had a sense of respect of God, like you understood that he existed, but you like that freedom? I can relate to that freedom, bro. Cause I, at the age of 7, 8, growing up in the church, you get that freedom. You're like, oh man, the world's opening up. Let's run. I just want to understand. And oh, what does this do? What does that do? Like, so for you, how did that experience feel? Like, did you just want to get to know the world more? Is that what it was? Or what was that feeling?
Yeah. I think it was just a thing of me wanting to fulfill what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Anything I wanted to do, because up until that point, I didn't really have a say-so in life in general. I mean, we had a busy life, and Pops ran a tight ship, bro. So, you know, as soon as, you know, it was mainly like, you know, we would do kind of what fit in that mold, that vision. I mean, you know, for example, my first job was working for my dad at like the age of like 14. You know, like
yeah,
we were
you wanted some
like
freedom.
13 and 14, bro. You know, we would work for him because legally I couldn't work for anybody else, but yet I needed to have a little bit of a job of some sort. Yeah. And so, it was that, and I had that desire. I really had that desire to become. It was also because becoming my own man, you know, finding out those things for myself. Sometimes, you know, I'm the type of person that I'm like, okay, well, I'll find out for myself if this is as bad as you say it is. And it's a really stubborn, fleshly thing, selfish thing for me to do. But that's just what my mindset was. Yeah. And, you know, we had multiple conversations about it, me and my parents and stuff. And I just was, you know, I was being respectful to him, but at the same time, I think really I had been in church and I had heard about all the good things. I knew that God was good. It wasn't a thing where I questioned the existence of God. It was mainly that I to be quite honest, I probably didn't feel like I needed him like at that moment, you know, and there was more things that I felt like I needed that kind of superseded that. That's kind of where that started from. But I did know there was points, man. It was so crazy, Javi, because there were points where I would just get to and this is where I kept the respect for God, is that in the 17 years of where I was doing like church ministry, it was just like going out and just be like, all right, let's get it, you know. And then when I enter the presence of God, like I just don't recognize where I am, but I recognize what God could like do for me. So there was times where, I mean, the Spirit of God would hit me in the face, bro. Yeah. Be at church and it would be amazing, you know. Right. And that's in those moments where I would ask that question to him, you know, how can I want to be a musician and also serve, but I was running away from the calling, honestly, because, you know, Dad was a pastor. I really had no interest in doing that at the time because I seen the sacrifice that it took, man.
Yeah. And how old were you, Isaac, when you felt that calling, man? When you started feeling that purpose?
Bro. Oh, man. Okay, so let's see, Dad. We started a church when I was 11 years old. Mm-hmm. I became a music minister when I was 12 because my brother, my
12
brother
years old.
Went to college. So I really started knowing and feeling I started feeling the pressure of the responsibility of family when I was like 12 to like be
super young
at church and stuff. But really the responsibility of ministry, bro, I felt that when I was around 15, 16, like right when I got to 16, because I'd seen glimpses of it, but I knew that what was happening, like when God would hit me, bro, it was powerful, man. I mean, it was powerful. And I realized I had this thing where I would actually, I didn't even know who I was preaching to, but I would start preaching in tongues. And I didn't even know what was happening, man. Like, you know, and it kind of scared me because I thought, man, like I want to do my own thing. You know, I really want to do my own thing. And at the age of 17, I really decided to, you know, pursue that more than anything else, bro. I decided to pursue, you know, me and what I wanted to do more than anything. A very selfish thing, but you know, it's just life. I can't change that now. But yeah, it was just being those moments, man, where I feel the call of God. He would touch me, man, and there would be times where I knew that the enemy was after me because, man, there would be times I would wake up in the middle of the night, bro, and I would be, you know, frozen, and I would know that I would remember I was in my parents' house. First time it happened, I was about 16, bro, and I was sleeping just fine, and I remember I woke up. It was like it was like, you know, when you see sometimes in those movies where it zooms up on someone has their eyes closed and all of a sudden their eyes just open.
Yeah.
Like I was dead sleep, bro. And I just remember my eyes open, wide open, bro. And I felt in a split second, I knew what was in the room. Something was in the room that wasn't supposed to be in there.
Yep.
And I couldn't move or speak. And I was sitting there and it took everything within me. I felt the veins bulging out of my neck as I say, Jesus, Jesus, Jesus.
Yeah.
And I'm starting to say Jesus. And as soon as I started saying Jesus, like my body started relaxing. I just felt it. I felt it move. I just felt it lift off the room. But I knew that there was a call of God because, you know, if the enemy didn't care, like, you know, he wouldn't have went to such lengths to scare me.
Right. To stop you.
Yeah. And so I always would just try to delay it and procrastinate. That's what I try to do with the call. And I succeeded in some ways because I could have started earlier and who knows where I would be at right now if I had just went and kind of just done it like I needed to in the very beginning, but I didn't, man. So, but yeah, God touched me right when I came in my first summer after being in IBC, really, like God really, really started dealing with me heavily about my personal consecration to him.
So that chapter of your life at IBC, like when you chose to go to IBC, was a part of it because you're like, okay, well, I want to try to develop a more of a deeper relationship with the Lord and kind of understand this. Was it part of that aspect, or was there a part of it where it's like there was an expectation for it?
I think to be quite honest, Javi, my first mindset was I need to go to IBC because it's 3 hours away from Louisville, Kentucky. That's number one. That was number one. I didn't realize what all I needed until after I had gotten there and I got the answer. I didn't even realize I was asking a question, bro. Like God gave me answers to questions I was not asking him.
Right.
But I needed the answers. And that's really what it was. And do I think that everyone should take that approach? And if they're trying to find the call of God, you know, or trying to just, I mean, because you have both sides of people. Like I was both sides of people. You have people that would go to Bible college just so they can get away.
Yeah.
They have people that go because they're truly, sincerely trying to find the call of God or find a spouse. You know, they have three motivators.
That's pretty true, man. 22 engagements my freshman year. I mean,
bro, crazy, man. Crazy.
Every year.
So, it was nuts. So it was just like, you know, that's kind of what we dealt with. But
let me ask you, Isaac, before you keep going on that, let me just ask you real quick here. So for you, was it at moments kind of where you felt like you were kind of going through the motions, you know, where you're on the music ministry, right? You're leading worship. And I mean, at such a young age to kind of bear that on your shoulders. And as you're growing up, and at some, like you're saying, you're trying to run away from this calling. You're trying to, I guess, delay it to a degree. And I can relate to that a little bit because that kind of brings back some memories of how in high school, man, I was fully dedicated to football. You know, I was doing so well, starting wide receiver. I was like, man, I got to give more to this. I can always run back to God whenever, right? Because God is eternal. He's going to be there. So I'll run back 20 years from now, 30 years. And then life changed, you know, later down that road, that following year. So would you say that at times you felt like you were going through the motions and maybe a little bit, I don't know, lonely? Did you feel lonely a little bit at times?
There would be times, man, the thing was, the alone thing is definitely a factor. And I think everyone that is raised in it. Yeah. And I wouldn't say, I can't speak for on the other side who people come in, but even people who come into it as well, they feel alone as well. But just on the scale of somebody that is raised in it, you always feel that not everyone, the word that always comes to mind, or the group of words that always comes to mind is you don't understand. Like, like there would be so many times where, you know, I would just have that thought of, you know, even though you're maybe speaking to the situation, you don't truly understand because like you haven't been in these shoes and you don't feel the pressure and
Right.
all of that. And there was times I struggled with that, man. It was rough. I mean, it was mind you, my dad started his own church when I was 11 years old.
Yeah.
Up until that point at our former church, which also was called Calvary Apostolic Church, which is crazy. But I was looking forward so much, bro, to joining the youth whenever I was at that church. And you could join the youth at the age of 12 when you were a preteen.
Yep.
And right before I was about to join the youth, my dad just feels the call of God to start his own church. And for me, bro, my world shatters. I'm like, I finally get the opportunity to go on some trips with some and be able to, because my brother would go on these things and be a lot of fun. He would just come back with like some stories. And so me, I kind of went from finally being able to join that to now having nobody. It'd be us four and no more pretty much. And it was frustrating, bro, maddening, even, because, it was not only did the hopes get dashed, but then I had this other responsibility in my mind that I had just got dumped on my shoulders that I didn't ask for,
Yeah.
And so I was already playing drums. I had been playing drums for a while until then, but I had already, like when I was with my brother and I would be the main musicians of our church. And then my brother, a year later, goes and leaves for Indianapolis to go to Butler University. And so I'm on my own, at the age of 12, bro. And so for a solid 3 years, I had to, first of all, learn how to play the piano. And then, going into that from 12 to like 15, it wasn't really any young people that came to my church. So I'll get off of that. But yes, there was a bit of loneliness there because even though there was PKs and whatnot, and they had like their problems to deal with, bro, I was like, my situation is pretty detailed on like, what's happening. And I would feel that there was just not a lot of people that would be able to understand. And it was fine because I didn't really talk about it a whole lot because we had to just go. We had to get it, man.
Right.
It was every day was going for it, And so, yeah, it was definitely a place where I had to realize that, I really didn't I didn't realize how much I needed that time. It wasn't necessarily IBC, but it was the time that God gave me when I was there. Because I think I was able to think on my own for myself and make the decision, because I could have made the decision to do that or be there or do it was
do something else. Yeah. And Isaac, why did you end up choosing IBC? Aside from it being 3 hours, I mean, out of all the schools that potentially you could have chosen, let's say, why IBC? What happened there?
I was at a youth camp. I was playing at a youth camp, and Dr. Anderson had some representatives from IBC coming down doing church camp booths, and they came to Kentucky camp. And I was playing, and one of the students actually, and I'll tell you, man, my original thing was I was gonna go to Urshan. I was gonna actually go to Urshan. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to go there because there had been talks about them being more accredited. And there was, I was thinking about doing that. Really, I didn't have a game plan for that other than I was in community college already due to me being able to transfer out of high school. My senior year of high school, I was taking college classes already. So
nice.
It was easy to just transfer over for community college. But I met Jonathan Chaluza. I think that's his last name. But he was there with another person from IBC, and he sent Dr. Anderson, Dr. Lindell, a video of me playing. And so I call him Pat, but Pat reached out to me and said, "Hey, we would like for you to try out for the IBC scholarship, bro." And And so I was, I was 16 I was 16 at the time.
Wow.
Whenever that happened.
This is in the middle of while you're struggling with your calling at the same time.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
this
bro. Yeah.
At
So
once.
this is a lot of things. So it was a door. If the opportunity didn't open of him contacting me, I wouldn't have went, to be quite honest. And so I tried out. I sent him a video. I tried out. And he came back with scholarship a little bit later and said that if you're interested in attending IBC, you will have a scholarship to go there, and so that was going to be a little bit of a better option as far as financial wise. And so I decided to go and see what was happening. And man, it was just God, man. Like it was, I'm really glad I did, because the moment I got there, bro, I developed relationships with the first person I developed a relationship with, and I had known him already previously from being at camp and stuff. But he had came to my church like one time, but Gentry Sharp.
Yeah. Okay.
And me and Gent, this is before his mother passed. They came and visited our church and preached for our church before. And so I had met Gentry, known Gentry. And then in that time span of where I had seen and met him, his mother had passed away. And so we got together and we became roommates, and it was like a match made in heaven, bro. A match made in heaven. Like seriously, it was, there's nobody that I really would not have wanted to start any year off with anyone other than Gentry Sharp. As far as
that's awesome.
I mean, bro, it was a good time. We knew like when to do things right. He was a hard worker, bro. It's just somebody that kept me on my toes and kept me working hard as well, And then not to mention our other two our two apartment mates, you could say, Cody Marshburn and Marcus Patterson. And so as far as like those guys, like we all came together, bro, and it was great. Like, that's what we needed. We needed that our first year, and being together. So,
and that's what you were looking forward to, a sense, when you were a lot younger, right? That youth group. You were looking for that relationship.
That was a good thing, man. I didn't have that. It was I developed, and this is kind of my personality now, Javi, is that I developed a quick way of having to be able to connect with people on a fast level, like quick, without, I know I didn't write anyone off, bro. I didn't write anyone off. One, because I was just, I thought about this later on. I was like, man, like, oh, this is how this happened. But really, I did not want to be alone, bro. I did not want to, when I came to church camp, I immediately became friends with whoever would have me, bro. I mean, it'd be, from the most popular to the non-most popular, whoever, it didn't matter, bro. Whoever would have me, that would be who I wanted to be friends with. And it was that's how it happened, bro. It's just kind of like that wanting. I just was wanting like that camaraderie with somebody. And like you said, it's just I didn't have a big youth group I didn't have really a youth group at all whenever I first started. And then like we had maybe 2 years of where we had 7 kids in our youth group, and that was really good. 2 families combined, and that was awesome. But man, it was just, that's just kind of how the cookie crumbled on that, bro.
And well, let me ask you this, man, just being kind of, because I can see, just like you said, I see God's hand in the middle of this, because I'm thinking to myself like, well, what if Isaac would have chose a different school? What if he would have gone to secular school? I mean, there's a lot of great universities, you know what I'm saying? And nothing bad, but I think when you go to a secular university, and if we ourselves are already shaking, in our faith, if our relationship isn't on the greatest terms, then it's so easy for us to fall away, especially being in the middle of an environment where, I mean, let's be honest. I mean, the majority of professors in secular universities potentially may be agnostic, atheist, and if they do believe in a God, it's not on our level, right? So, I'm thinking like potentially you could have walked away, like things could have changed a totally different perspective for you. Would you agree to that, or what do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I would say, bro, there was the definite point. There was, and when I say that I could have chose either path, I could have chose to walk away, if I wanted to. And that was that decision. I had the power to make that decision when I was in college, when I was at IBC.
Yeah.
I had that power to say, okay, because I seen a definite path of like what I could have done outside of it, like, recording or whatever else and doing that. Like, there was definitely a avenue for me to do whatever I wanted to do on my
right.
But man, there was something about when I got into the presence of God, bro. And especially with like being able to play in that and be able to set an atmosphere. I didn't really put words into it until I got a little bit older, but I really did enjoy like those moments, man. It wasn't like about the shout. It wasn't really about, I love shout moments and all that, but mainly about those sweet moments where you're just kind of basking in his presence, bro. There's nothing quite like it, for me. And I'm not the best piano player around, but I really enjoy being able to facilitate those moments, bro. And I'll sit in it forever, and I still do this to this day, but if service has broken out and there's people in the altar for, 45 minutes or an hour and service is over, but you have still people in the altar, bro, usually I'm going to stay until the last person is done getting what they need to get. I'm going to stay and play and not really put the attention on me, but all I'm trying to do is set the atmosphere and keep everything else that doesn't need to be there away, like in the atmosphere. Anything else that does not need to be there, keep it out. And that's all I try to do, man. So that's just, that's awesome. I love those moments, bro. I love them. I love those moments.
Yeah. We're about to jump into this now. Like what we're talking about, we're going to jump into this here in just a second. And because now fast forwarding, right? So you're at IBC, you come to terms and develop such a more profound relationship with the Lord now, creating amazing fruits at IBC. And the staff, I mean, the teachers are just great. They do an amazing job to say, one of the things I tell a lot on the show is how Pastor Jason Gallion would always say, expose yourself to burden. Your ministry doesn't start when you get a title. Your ministry starts today, right? It's to serve. And bro, today I was interviewing another brother. He goes to my church and he said it perfectly. He says, you know what serving is? He's like, it's the art of forgetting yourself. And I was like, dude, that's so good because that's what it is. It's not about you. It's about everyone else. You're serving everyone else out there. And it's not about if you're a title of evangelist or a youth pastor. No, man, and Brother Kilman would talk about this all the time. Bro, I would remember when Brother Kilman in his theology class, like the Spirit of God just let loose, man. And we would all be speaking in tongues or like worshiping, in the middle of a lesson. And he would make it super clear how, it starts with cleaning your church. Whatever they need, you're there. You're there to help out. You're never going to look down and say ministry is only about when you're on the pulpit.
Yeah.
Right. So, man. So I think that's awesome. And as going to IBC and getting a chance to meet you there with Marcus, with Draylon, and so many other people, Sean, Tim, and Justin Michael, and so many others. So. And I wish, to be honest, I wish I had the chance to spend time with you guys more. That's probably one of the things that I regret. Like I was only there for a year and a half. And if I was there for 4 years, I would have had the chance to get to know so many more people.
Yeah.
And the conversations that would have taken place, And bro, I can tell you for a fact that, when I got there, and again, this is all new to me, like Bible college and like the praise team. I remember people like, oh man, IBC's praise and worship, they're amazing, phenomenal. And I never forget when I would be sitting there, I was sitting with Dallas Davis and he's like, bro, this is where dreams get shattered. And I'm like, what are you talking about, man? He's like, this is where people come to try out for praise, chorale, and the singers team. And so everyone that thinks they're the best, they're coming out here to sing. And
I love that.
this is where dreams get shattered. He's like, yeah. So I thought it was funny because I was like, oh, that's kind of true. But to my point, I thought, I mean, for everyone listen, Isaac is a phenomenal piano player, bro. Someone told me, I don't know if it's true, I never asked you. They said that you initially really learned how to play listening. Like you didn't learn playing notes or anything like that. Is that true?
Yeah, I had man, when I first came to IBC, bro, I did by ear. I was learning everything by ear. My piano teacher taught me always to play by ear. And so whenever they gave us chord charts and stuff, whenever we first came to IBC, and bro, it was like I taught myself the number system, all of that. My first week of IBC, I was like, all right, and I figured it out, and I had to learn these songs by listening to what the chords were, and that's kind of how actually Marcus as well. Marcus did as well. We learned those songs. Marcus didn't even have a bass amp, bro. I mean, like my man had his bass, and he was listening to the popping sound with the tone on the strings with his iPhone sitting in front of him, trying to listen how to play the songs, you know. And that's how we learn, man, you know. And,
wait, so when you were younger, you didn't have notes? You just played as well, listening?
So
or
I learned how to read sheet music, or not.
Okay.
I learned how to read like notation. So I knew how to read, like, you know, with notes on the staff and everything. But IBC had like chords on their chord charts. And, you know, they had, you know, all sorts of different chords, C minor 7, you know, major 9s, 11s, you know,
different language now, right?
Things, you know? And so for me, you know, I had to learn. I already played those chords by ear, but I didn't know the proper technical terms for all of that stuff. And so whenever I first came there, man, I had to learn. I learned my first 2 weeks, bro, was rough, man, because it was just learning everything by ear. We would take shifts. So Gentry would have to play drums, and when Gentry would be done playing drums, then I would work on the piano portion. And then after I finished working on the piano portion, then me and Gent would come together for like 6-7 hours, bro, and just play the songs just over and over and over and over, bro. That'd be it. That's like what we would do, you know. And that's how we learned.
Goodness, man, more power to you guys, bro. I mean, you guys did a phenomenal job, and if anything, one of the fun memories that I hold to this day, and I thought was really, actually, there's a couple with you that I enjoyed. One, when you were preaching in student chapel, and Robert Elston and a couple other people just randomly started getting up and dancing, you know, to kind of, I don't know if you remember that. And do you remember that part?
Was it my first time preaching?
I don't know if it was your first time preaching, but because you guys were so close, right? So like you started preaching, and then Robert and a few others just jumped up and started kind of hollering, dancing. So Brother Gavin, all of us started kind of laughing a little bit, you know, and I don't know who got on the keys to kind of play a little bit. So it was cool. It was just for a brief moment. So I thought that was funny.
Okay, yeah.
And then the other moment was there was a chaplain who was invited. I don't remember his name. He was invited, and
the guy had the
kind of hello
with
the
like
police.
The guy, the fire. It was like a police officer or something like that.
The police officer, and then the chaplain, right? The chaplain comes up.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, and I think he goes to another apostolic church, and then he started kind of getting into it a little bit. And you were already on the key, so you get on the organ. You just start kind of playing some notes, and he looked at you. He's like, "Oh, come on, bro, don't get me started right now." And then you did it again, and then he started getting into it. Yeah. So that was fun. That was, bro. Yeah. That was so good. So, bro, you know, this is actually a good segue, because initially what we were talking about earlier and what you had said is it's brilliant. I mean, this is really good in terms of the power of music and how it really does influence everyone. And we know biblically speaking how Lucifer really was in charge of the music, and then he screwed it up for himself. Yeah, he messed it up. He sinned by himself, right? Yeah. So now he's our arch enemy, right? He's coming after us. So, So in this case, going back to what we were talking about, one of the things I wanted to mention or really ask you, because it makes a lot of sense. You know, when you talk about how David played and saw, right, that demon would leave, that evil spirit would leave. Yeah. And David didn't say a word. He played. And I'm like, you know what? I mean, it makes sense. If I'm at the gym and I put on some pump up music, right? I'm feeling it, like activates me. You know, like, and when I mean pub, I don't mean like I'll listen to what I call cinematic or epic music. It's like this orchestra playing in the background, you know, like it makes the scene feel hardcore, but I don't see the scenes or anything, you know what I'm saying? But when I hear the instruments start playing, yeah. And so my body is responding to that epicness, and I'm like, oh, let's go, you know, let me get some weights, some dumbbells, and I'm going. So while you were saying that, I was like, it's just true. It like music activates responses within us. And absolutely. Now that you're here at your church at Calvary, you know, you're giving some really good pointers, man, good advice, and about leading a worship team and how you want them to pay attention to what's going around them and the people that are at the altar and helping them get what they need in that moment of prayer and worship with the Lord. Yeah. So let me ask you, man, for any of our viewers and listeners that lead a worship team or are part of a worship team, it's so important how up to this point we've discussed that people can easily assume that we may be okay. You know, even though we're on the platform, we may be singers or whatever the case may be. And people say, oh, you know, if he or she are up there, they've got a great relationship with God. That may not be the case. So for you as a leader, man, how do you stay on top of making sure like the people that are with you, they're doing okay. They're living a life for the Lord, but at the same time, you know, they're getting what they need as well to fill up that tank.
Talk to them outside of the work that you guys are doing. Yeah. That's the number one thing. Every one of my musicians and people that I'm over, I try to have conversations with that are outside of music, right? Because I care about them as people. I have always said to them, if you feel the need to go and either on either side, if you need to take a break, if you feel like you're getting burnt out, I want you to come and talk to me, and we can approach that as well as we can together. That way, they don't feel like they're alone and they don't feel like they're letting everybody down. Bro, I used to have some problems with that. I used to have a guitarist that he at certain times, man, like it'd be probably every 9 to 12 months, bro, would just have to be like, hey man, I think I need a break and just get tired. And what I realized is that he wasn't getting fed like whenever he was coming and playing. He wasn't looking forward to it whenever he would come and play. And what I wanted them to understand was, one, it's okay to talk to me about it, and everything's going to be fine. The world's not going to end if you have to take some time off. That's number one. So I don't make it a huge deal. Because we have people that can really hold it down, and they're very solid, and I'm very, very thankful for them. But the one thing that I think that people fail to realize is that if they only talk to their team when they need something from them, it becomes relationship becomes transactional. And that's the complete opposite of what Jesus taught, because Jesus taught unconditional love, and unconditional love has no conditions on it. So whether you're doing something for me in the ministry or not, my love is going to be unconditional. Whether you're in church or not, my love is going to be unconditional, because that's what Jesus taught, bro. And so if I go ahead and somebody's struggling, or if somebody is needing time off, or they can't do what they've been doing for me up until that point, I have to be okay. And it'll be frustrating. You have these things that just comes up, and especially COVID, man. I mean, with the mess that we've had in our world up until this point, so you have these unexpected things that come up, unexpected life things come up. But what I've tried to teach the band is that, hey, whatever you're going through, we're going through, number one. And two, like, I care more about your well-being than I do about us sounding full or good or whatever else. I care more about your spiritual well-being more than that. and I'll always ask them how things are going. If there's times where I can be communicating with them, congratulate them on things, on accomplishments that they're doing in life that have nothing to do with the ministry, you compliment those things. Like, put it out there that you're rooting for them and that you're in their corner. Because when that happens, bro, and that's kind of what a part of the serving is, because you serve someone, it's not just you're serving. I'm not just serving them so they can serve me. Whether they serve with me another day or not, that doesn't matter to me. But what I will do is, what I know for a fact is that when you serve someone else, when you serve someone else, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be easier for that person to serve with you, because they're not even serving me. We're both serving together. Yeah. We're doing this together. So therefore, there's camaraderie in it and we're all really close. That's another thing. We're all really close people together. Yeah. So, that same guitarist or whatnot, it's one of my greatest givers at the church. And I'm not talking about finances. I'm talking about gives of time, of resources, bro. I mean, as far as, we have one of the young musicians that came up from our kids' church, he kind of took them under his wing and basically just said, hey, any gear that you need, it's available to you. Like, anything of mine that you need, it's available to you. And for you to have that servant mentality right there, that's the thing I think can keep people like that going, because when you start serving others, you also understand, bro, you start getting goodness in yourself, because, bro, that is actually fulfilling when you can do something kind for someone else that's unconditional, bro. It gives you refreshment. It gives you fulfillment.
Absolutely.
And people don't realize that because they initially just see the sacrifice of the serving, but they don't see the rewards of it as well, because there's not really rewards. Right. That's not really rewards that are spoken of, And so all Jesus tells us is to serve. He tells us to serve. And it's really hard for us to just suck it up and serve in that moment. But, bro, we don't realize on the flip side that he had something even better for us because we did that. Right. And 9 times out of 10, bro, if you're serving someone and doing something for someone, you're not going to regret it at the end, especially if they're thankful and they can. It's not even about acknowledgement, but it's mainly just about you being able to serve the cause of Christ. And that's it, bro. So.
Right. Yeah, that's absolutely true, man. It's so good. And I think what's important for people should note here is that you're investing in time in them, right? So one of the key things that I think that you said is that you're not serving them so that they can serve you. You guys are serving together. Yeah. You care about them. And you know what? It's exactly what the previous interview talked about a little bit. He says people care more about how much you care and instead of the words that you can say, right? You can say so much stuff eloquently. You can have a lot of knowledge. You can answer a lot of questions, but if you don't care, if you don't invest time,
that's true, bro.
They don't care. They're not going to respond. They're not going to follow you. If you're looking to be followed so that you can lead them to the next level, they're not going to follow you like that. Yeah. And I think that's perfect example for everyone that's listening. If you're part of a team, you need to invest in your team. You need to invest in their lives, understand how they're doing, right? Be their friend. It's more than just, hey, how you doing? God bless you. You ready to play today? Let's jump. Yeah. Oh, let's jump and get some fire in this. You know what I'm saying? No, it's like, I know your name. I know your family, and you know my family, you know me, and we're good. We're good. So I think that's so good, man. And kind of touching upon now, going back to the example of David, right? And what we learned from him and what you've shared, the power of music for you, Isaac. How do you still get fed? Does it ever happen in service? Like, does that happen to you where you feel like half of your brain is playing, half is on
bro,
Lord? Or
absolutely, bro. Here's the thing, and this is where it's not really a common thing, and this is where I thank God for the location that I'm at right now, because I can't say this of every place that I've been, but bro, the Lord moves every single service. And here's why I'm here. And I don't want to be taken wrong. He is always there and he is always available. The problem is that sometimes our hearts are not where they need to be and open enough to really realize where he is and to connect with him. And so, what I mean by that is we have a very good habit of people's hearts being ready to receive. And sometimes we may have to push through a ceiling a little bit, but bro, 9 times out of 10, it's going to be there. And it's something that I don't need to be eloquent on selling God to people. All I got to do is get them in the doors. That's really what I feel, bro. If I can get them in the doors, God's going to do the rest. And that's because we have opened up our hearts, because he only will go as far as we will allow him. So we have allowed him to do what he wants to do fully 100%. And because of that, bro, I am super comfortable, because I was taught at Bible college to really be prepared for a lot of pushback and arguments. And I'm not saying that stuff was bad or anything like that. But where I found out that there's a lot that God can say that doesn't have to come out of my mouth, bro. And that doesn't have to come out of something that comes off the pulpit, bro. You can walk into his presence and he will do the talking for you. Because then the question, the heart, what it allows is that there's an opportunity for the heart to be opened. And then when the heart is open, the words that are said immediately is, I want to know more. So now you don't have to sell God anymore. He's already sold himself, bro. And so when you get to that point, then it's just, okay, well, if you want this thing or not, if you want this thing, it's for you. But I don't have to debate or argue with you on anything, because what you can do is you can either go and you can feel what you feel here, and you know that it's not just a conjuring thing, that we don't have, mood boosters in the back, trying to set the mood, But bro, it's an atmosphere that has been set that can't be explained just or duplicated unless your heart is right, and that you're trying to set the atmosphere after God, And so when somebody has that and they feel that peace that passes all understanding, which just simply means that I have peace when I shouldn't have peace. And when they can feel that when they walk in the doors, bro, God sold himself. And I don't need this.
Man, that's awesome.
And so that's awesome, really man. The easiest thing. So to answer your question, to that atmosphere usually is always set, and we have to set it every day. We are in the prayer room every day at 9:15, and we have to set the atmosphere. And sometimes it takes somebody pushing, sometimes it takes that, but we work in that area from 9:15. Musicians get there at 9:30, 9:35 or whatever else, but because they're in practice. But the rest of the body of church and pastor and ministry team and all that, they're in there at 9:15, and they're pushing to get the atmosphere set, bro, for when we hit, man, that God is not hindered by anything that we're doing, and we allow it to flow, bro. And
bro, that's awesome, man.
You know what I mean? Yeah. So
this is a good part, because we're going to segue now to an important key that you've already given such great advice to the viewers and listeners that are potentially a part of worship teams, or about to join. So let me ask you this, man. You touched upon prayer, right? Prayer is so important, and it really, I don't think we can hammer it down enough, right? It's got to be just plain and clear every single time. When you play, you had mentioned, right? And not only part of the music ministry, right? It could be even part of the preaching life. I mean, our lives can be so busy that sometimes we forget to invest in our own relationship with God, right? And Sundays aren't enough, right? Sundays are just not enough, right? So for you and for everyone out there, what are some of the advice that you can give to people to help make sure that your team, are getting good quality and getting fed throughout the week, not just on Sundays? It's like, listen, don't come in here to get fed just on Sunday, but how are your daily habits, your prayer life? Like, do you guys come together at some point during the week and you guys are doing devotional? Like, what do you guys do?
So since COVID has started, we have stopped our Saturday prayers.
Okay.
But we used to do Saturday prayer, not just with our team, but with all the basically main core people of the church. And Pastor made it very, very adamant on that, because the fact of it is that if we're not spending some time together in that area,
right.
Not to mention also, not just playing altar call and stuff, and being able to take that time as well. But really, we have really encouraged each other always, and whether it's different groups, I'm in several different group texts about it, but to have that daily walk, bro.
Yeah.
We really made it very imperative, and Pastor really did a cultural shift for like a year of the church, trying to push that, hey, we have got to get prayer as the main focus and starting it off. And COVID, I mean, we did Saturday prayer. There was Friday men's prayer. And, so there's opportunities in the week for people to come and get what they need as well.
Right.
Not to mention the Bible studies and whatnot that are also being held as well. So when we look at the grand scheme of it, the biggest thing is that I'm not going to be the prayer police. I'm not going to be the prayer police in your life.
Yeah.
What I am going to say is, what I do let them know is that we will know if it's not going down the way it should, because you will always be revealed by the fruit that you produce. You will always be revealed. No matter what you say or do, you will always be revealed by the fruit that you produce, bro.
Right.
And so if the fruit that you produce isn't that conducive to prayer, and that if you are easy to anger and that you can get easily swayed and whatnot, then there's obviously something that isn't happening.
Right.
That would need to happen. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And I think that also, in the fact of it is that on the servanthood thing, is that this group really has caught the vision of whatever you need, talking to God, whatever you need, we're available. We're here to do it, and I think it was an answer to prayer, because really Pastor Jimmy, the pastor who took over as the main responsibilities for the church, that was a thing that he really prayed over heavily for a while, man. And for a while, some of us just thought, man, like, we didn't see the end goal or what the end result would have been. And I think God's really starting to reveal that now through time, is that there has been this culture that has been developed that people naturally have to get within themselves to pray. We have a lot of our young men that we've had like 9 weddings this year. I mean, as far as couples and whatnot. So all of our young people are getting married, and it's wonderful. But they're even starting to realize now that they have to keep their families within a spiritual walk, because now they're starting to feel the pressure of not only them, but their spouse, depending on them, as far as the spiritual head. And so that's also a big thing as well, because I think that people don't feel the necessity of prayer when they don't feel the responsibility of others on them, So if they don't feel the responsibilities of their families, if they just feel like, because you would eat good if you felt like that if you had diabetes or something and you couldn't, if you ate bad, you would die. But if you don't have any conditions or anything else, and whatever you put in your body, I mean, think about a woman who's pregnant. She has to watch what she eats. She has to watch what she ingests. She can't do everything or say anything, because everything she does affects the child within her. And so anybody that we're connected with, that I think we've realized that there's a responsibility, because there's a lot of people connected to us. I mean, on all levels now, not only are my seasoned musicians, or my young musicians, they all have somebody that they're like now connected to because they serve in different areas of the church. They have somebody that's always looking at them for guidance, for direction. Right. They always feel it's a good type of pressure. It's a good type of responsibility. And I don't think that should be the sole motivator. I don't think that if you're struggling with your walk with God, you need to have somebody attached to you and then decide to start living right. You've got to make the decision before, because if God can't trust you with a little, how can he trust you with much? You know, and so and that's just Bible, you know. And so that's kind of the gist of that. But yeah, the culture of prayer really has been cultivated, bro. And it took, I'm serious, bro. It took a solid almost 2 years with Pastor Jimmy. I mean, it was every Sunday be on the same subject. I mean, bro, it was about it, bro. Like, he was about it. And it's because he felt the necessity and the urgency, because we didn't want to lose. I understand it now, because now you have a new generation that's coming up and taking over as far as, like, you know, the day-to-day things, like, you know, like majority, the big group that was before them are now grandparents now, you know, and, you know, they have, you know, they're starting to retire and things like that, you know. So now there's this new group that's, I mean, a huge group that now is coming up with the responsibility of this, that has that weight on their shoulders. And now they have to be the ones that kind of push it forward, that to be the ones that are the ones that lead in front, you know, in prayer, and you know, consecration as well, you know. So
that's awesome, man. That's awesome. It
we also do a Bible program together. That's also the thing. We do a Bible program each year, so we read and pray and stuff together as well. So that's
nice.
I forgot to mention that.
No, that's really good, because what I was going to say was, to add a comment to that, I heard was that I recently learned, and I was telling my wife and I were talking about it, the leaders have to change the culture, right? If a culture needs to be changed, right? The leaders, it starts from the leadership position. The leaders change the culture, and then the culture drives the people, right? So if we can't make that switch where you change yourself, right? If I'm the leader, I've got to make that change and be the role model, right? And create that culture and let that culture, right? It's going to just spread. It's just going to start. It's going to be a contagious feeling. You know what I'm saying? Like what you just said, 2 years, your pastor doing that. I mean, that sounds awesome. And that's really what I came to learn, is that it can take about 3 to 5 years to change the culture of a church.
Yeah, for sure.
One, because everyone's that's on your team are volunteers. Right. No one's getting, you know, it's totally different when you're in business and you get paid for something. Then you're like, okay, well, I'm getting incentivized. Right. Yeah. So that's good, man. That's great. And I hope everyone listening is going to take something out of that, because it's really important that it's not about, and sometimes we forget about that. You know, sometimes my wife says it all the time. She says it great. She's like, people need to focus on not trying to be professional. Okay. This is not about being professional. It's about being filled with passion and letting God guide you and be sensitive to the Spirit. Absolutely. So I think you hit the nail on the head on that, man. All right, bro. So we're almost coming to the close of the podcast show. And the next segment, one of my favorite parts is books, man. I think books are a huge aspect to our growth. And if you got some books that are going to be a blessing to them, and I'd love for you to share that, because if everyone listening, watching, if you guys can just take an opportunity, if you buy one of these books or listen, maybe you're listening to audiobooks, if you have a chance to do either, or, you know, this is going to impact your life, just like Isaac, it's impact yours. So Isaac, do you have any books that you can recommend?
The first one I have is Struggles by Craig Groeschel. Basically what it's talking about is when you're dealing with the effects of life and social media, and kind of the all around noise, how to shut off the noise. And so basically there's a lot of noise, and he really graciously kind of writes in that book on how to really keep your vision focused on what is the main thing, and not really to be distracted by the noise. The other one is by Bob Whitesel, Growth by Accident, Death by Planning. And
that's how God I like that title, man.
Yeah.
Sounds great.
So yeah, it's this book right here. So this is Congregational Leadership. This one right here, and I got this from when we were on our book trip. But the Growth by Accident and Death by Planning, bro, because we never ever plan on dying. Like we never plan on dying.
Right.
But the thing is, but we also live growth. We don't plan for growth either. So if we grow, it's by accident. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
If we have growth, it's like, oh, it's not intentional growth.
Yeah.
It's not like we're putting these things out there that, like, you know, what I always am mind boggled by is the retention rate of people in the church, because we will have numbers that are astronomical, bro. Like we will baptize or have 1,000 people receive the Holy Ghost. And when I thought about this, I'm like, we have 1,000 people receiving the Holy Ghost, but we don't have 1,000 member church.
Wow.
What's the issue here?
Yeah. Yeah.
What's the issue here? You know, and we'll have great numbers, but man, my thought is, I think we're always growing intentionally, and it's a culture thing. It's because, you know, whoever takes it will take it. And sometimes we have to be very, very intentional about somebody, you know, getting this thing. Now, I completely understand, because, you know, the Bible does say that many are called, few are chosen. Okay. Many are called, few are chosen. And I think that the difference between the ones that are chosen is really like, you have to make the decision for yourself to be chosen, because God can call anybody, you know? And so, so the whole deal about this book right here, Growth by Accident and Death by Planning, bro, is you have to be intentional about growing. And you're going to die. If you're going to die, do not plan on dying. And by planning on it, you know, you could do it by planning on it. It could be something as simple as, you know, oh, let's not worry about that. Let's just, the words I loathe. The words I loathe are these words right here. Let's just do it like we did before. Like the word, that one line, we'll just do it like we did last year. Or, you know, like, it's like we don't put the planning into it. And what we don't realize is all we're doing is just kind of decay. It's just a decay instead of growth. It just becomes decay. Yeah. And it's one thing I loathe, man. I hate that line, bro. I always,
because it becomes like a routine, right? It just becomes a routine. Yep.
And this is one of my favorite scriptures, bro. The Bible, Romans. I gotta remember the exact passage, but Paul says, forsake yourselves, therefore, brethren, the traditions of men. Yeah. When he talks about that, bro, tradition is such a broad term, because it's just a moment where you're repetitive and you do things out of the routine of what you've always done. And so therefore it becomes a habit. And therefore the Bible classifies that as a tradition. I don't want church in any aspect, from the nursery all the way until we do a Holy Ghost rally, to be anything that is traditional, or anything that, and by traditional, I just mean repetitive, bro. I don't want it to be repetitive. I don't want us to do it because we feel obligated to do it. I want us to do it because we love it. We love people. We love souls.
Amen.
We want to see them, bro. So that's a big book there. Death by Planning, Growth by Accident. The biggest thing is this, and I know we'll have to wrap it up in a little bit, but the biggest thing is that what people have to understand is that living for God does not have to be a complicated process. Yeah. It doesn't have to be complicated when working with people. It doesn't have to be complicated. You just need to not have any expectations of what somebody is going to do as of yet. Now, that's responsibility and whatnot, but what I'm saying about expectations is that you have to allow people to make errors in the beginning. You have to allow people, and you have to be gracious in the very beginning. You can't make it to where if somebody is going to fail you, you have to make it to where it's not going to ruin you or your spirit. That's the number one thing, because people will fail you all day. There are people that are cancel on you, people won't show up or anything else. And what you have to understand is you have to keep the door open, but then also you have to let them know there's a responsibility that comes with this now.
Right.
And so that's the kind of on the flip side of dealing with team members, because I know a lot of team members, not everybody's team is perfect and not everybody gets along with their team. Okay. So I've made it sound like the team is the Taj Mahal. Like it's not, but what I am saying is the relationship is one of a kind that I have tried to maintain with the people that I lead. And even if you're not leading anyone, if you can make it to where you can serve somebody that's if pastor, or even if it's something as simple as, if they need their car cleaned or something, go do it. Make it happen. What you want to do is, if you can put yourself in a position of servanthood in doing something, and servanthood and submission, they go hand in hand, bro.
Yeah.
And so when you are submitting to somebody, that's when you're doing something you don't want to do with the right attitude as well. So some true submission is not you doing something you don't want to do and then go complain about it to, your friends as soon as you do it, while you're doing it, or something else. It's doing something you don't want to do.
Yep.
And not talking about it, sucking it up and doing it, bro. That's it. And I'm learning that. I still am learning that lesson each day. Submission is not like an easy subject to learn. It's because it has to be.
It's a growing process.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's painful, bro. It stinks. It really stinks. It's the same thing with faith, bro. Faith, without you seeing a final product, it is a investment that you do not see the end result of within the initial deposit, bro. And you don't see it, bro.
That's absolutely true, man. It's we're growing to perfection until the day we die. Okay. Absolutely. I think that's the best way we could be 80 years old. We're still growing. We'll start making mistakes. We're still going to have to go through a process. No, man, that's great, man. I appreciate you sharing those books, because at the end, look, we've got to read, man. Reading is part of our growing process, and leaders are readers. That's really an expression that we've heard for the most part in our lives. And it could be a cliche, but if we think about it, man, you ask yourself, right? All these CEOs of big businesses, big corporations, all these pastors that we look up to, big preachers, evangelists, missionaries, how do you think they got there? You just think, were they just born and that's how they came out? No, man, they went through a process of growth. They went and you know what, Isaac, your story and every other story that I've had on the show is a perfect example. Well, maybe someone this month just came to know you, but they don't know everything that you just had to walk through in your life to get to where you are today, and all the molding that God had to do in your life, to shape you and to build you. So it's a hurtful process. It's not fun, but it's beautiful when you start seeing the big picture, and it's beautiful to see when you allow God to use you. Absolutely. But man, now, coming to a close, we're in the last part of the last two segments, really. I like to play a game. It's a Bible trivia game, a quick game. All right. Okay. So are you up for it? Are you up for this game?
With it, bro. I'm going to see what happens.
So
you're going to ask me like passages of scripture, and I'm going to be like, well, I'll pray for you.
So the first part of this game really are icebreakers. So before we get to the trivia aspect, so I like people getting to know you and what you like. So this question I ask everyone. So you actually were just mentioning that you're reading history right now. I love history. And so one of the questions I'd like to, think about is, what is that, or who is that historical figure you would love to be able to have an opportunity to sit down, have dinner with them, and interview them? So I'm going to ask you that same question, man. Have you ever thought about that? Someone that you would love to interview?
G.T. Haywood, bro.
Yes.
I'll tell you this right now. This is the reason why right now, because, bro, and this is a personal reason for me. This is why it kind of has so much weight for me, because, bro, we've had so much strife over race in our world.
Yeah.
Some justified, some not. Mm-hmm. But either way, there's division.
Right.
What I am wondering, because, bro, my church is 100 and We just celebrated our 104th or 104th year. We just celebrated our 104th year as being a church.
Wow.
Bro, our church was started because the founding pastor of Calvary Apostolic Church was in a church service where G.T. Haywood was preaching.
That's awesome.
And he got the revelation of the mighty God in Christ.
Yeah.
And he started Calvary Apostolic Church.
That's awesome.
The Calvary Apostolic Church would not be existing if it had not been for G.T. Haywood preaching.
Yeah.
And my thought is, with so much strife that's happening now due to just racial everything, how could G.T. Haywood, in the time of when there was action a lot more than you would see even today.
Yeah.
But now it's just mainly we're dealing with the mindset of people. But this was actually the actions of people, where
agreed,
you would have to really watch for your life if you're just a regular citizen. But G.T. Haywood circumvented all of that and traveled from Indianapolis to the entire Midwest, bro. Wow. And preached at churches and started revival movements and was a part of what is a vital, intricate part of what is the United Pentecostal Church today. Yeah. You know, like, that's one thing that I look at very, very heavily. And I think, man, I would love to sit down and talk with him as far as what would his mindset be on division, because even myself as a young preacher or as a young minister, and especially as a young minister of an urban background, you know, how do you navigate what this is? And my thought is, because I mean, when I think about it, when I thought about all the churches that G.T. Haywood started, it kind of like dwindled like the issues that we kind of talk about even now, because I'm thinking my man had to travel out and they legit would probably not let him into places. And this was still when they had their own bathrooms and stuff like that, you know, for them. This is a time where it wasn't an easy time. We're not talking about just a time where it was, you know, just somebody not wanting to listen. Like, they would actually try to persecute, you know, him. And so I always wanted to just have a conversation with him on his mindset and what was his mindset in kind of approaching that, because it's very important. It's very important to me. I look at it as a very important thing to me. That'd be one person for sure.
I think that's a phenomenal answer, by the way. And you know, you make me think about it. I would love to see not only his reaction, but if the Apostle Paul and Peter and so many others that we could say years ago, you know, what time was for them. If they looked at what we were living in today, what would the reaction be of our church, you know, our culture, and how we're leading the church, right? It brings a scripture to mind. You remember when Peter didn't want to go preach at what was it, at the house of Cornelius, right? He wanted to mix with, you know, Jews and Gentiles, right? That wasn't a skin color issue. That was just a culture or ethnicity issue. You know what I'm saying? So, and then God had to spiritually slap him, we can say in modern terms, and then he's like, oh, you know what, I get it now. Okay, let me go.
Unclean that I have pronounced clean.
And he goes, he preaches, and they get filled with the Holy Ghost, and they get baptized in Jesus' name. And he's like, oh my gosh, salvation's not only for Jews but for Gentiles as well. Absolutely. So I would be curious to see what their thoughts would also be on what we're living in today as a church, because I think, even to be honest, Isaac, I think within our church there's a little bit of a division as well in terms of how to approach the scenario, how to approach this situation, and how to talk about it within our youth group, or even, I mean, really in our church. And so it's this is, again, this topic that you brought up, man, we can talk about it all day, literally all day. So
good. I'm not trying to open up another rabbit trail for us to go on, but
it's good, man. These are necessary topics, man. Topics. But all right, second question, and then we'll go into Bible trivia. What is your or actually, I don't want to ask you your favorite song. Let me ask you this: what song has been so impacting into your life? I'm sure there's so many, but is there like a first song that you would say like this song impacted me first, man, in my life with Christ?
Oh, first, oh man, I see. Here's the thing, bro. I went through so many. I went through. It was different seasons of life, so I had different songs for different seasons, man.
Okay,
Really
yeah,
was.
no, that makes sense.
I tell you, man. Like I could tell you some of the ones for the seasons. I think that the song "Stand" by Donnie McClurkin. It says, "Tell me what do you do when you've done all you can, and it seems like it's never enough. Tell me what do you say when your friends walk away or when your friends turn away and you're all alone." And it says, "You just stand. When there's nothing left of you, you just stand. Watch the Lord see you through. After you've done all you can, you just stand." And what it reminded me of is just like when you're on the battlefield,
right,
and everyone else around you is gone and you're the last man standing, you either have two choices. You can either fight or you can flight. And that's the two choices you have. And it's just in the middle of adversity, bro. That song really helped me a lot. And I used to put it on repeat, bro. I really did. I used to put it on repeat a lot. Then the other song was "More Than Anything" by Lamar Campbell. That was really good. That's right there, because what that put the perspective on is that there's nothing else that can matter in life in general. And so more than anything, and actually Jesus at the Center kind of went hand in hand, because I would just play them both at the same time, bro. I would just play one after the other. And even now there's a song, I know you've heard of Maverick City. But I listen to Maverick City a ton, bro. And there's a song called "Promises" that the words say, "Great is your faithfulness to me. Great is your faithfulness to me. From the rising sun to the setting same, I will praise your name. Great is your faithfulness to me." And it was just the words of the verses, man. Oh, it's just what it was saying is that God, you're always good, man. It's just that was one thing that always happened. And I know that this is another segue, but last year we had a girl from our church that passed away in a tragic accident. And
sorry to hear that.
Yeah, but man, like from that story and that situation, bro, and she's like a sister to me, bro. I mean, like, I still go to Christmas and stuff with her family even now to this day. But like that situation with her really put some things in perspective on like the seasons of life that you go in. And there's a song for every season, man. There's a song for every season. And that's just how it works for me. And that's just how my brain works, is that right now the season of life is, and the song is called "Promises" by Maverick City. But I listen to that song all the time, bro.
Yeah.
All the time.
Okay, let's go to this next part of it, and then we're going to close off on the last segment, which is really where we can find you. So, all right, Bible trivia, man. Here we go. You ready?
Hit me, bro.
Okay, here we go. I'm going to ask you the same questions I've asked so far to everyone else for the most part. Okay. Out of the four Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, which author was a doctor or in the medical profession? From what Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, out of the four authors.
I wanted to, I think was it Mark?
It was not Mark. He also wrote the book of Acts.
Oh, okay. So, well, then that's John. Is that John?
Nope.
John wasn't a doctor. It wasn't John. It was Luke. That's my first choice, bro. I should have said
Stick to it, man. Stick to the gut feeling.
I was thinking, I was like, hold up, John didn't write. I knew John wasn't a doctor. I was like, no, it's not John. Okay.
Yeah. Well, okay. Here we go. Ready? So now we know Luke is a doctor, right? Or was a physician, right? So follow-up question. Out of now the three that are left, Matthew, Mark, and John, who was a tax collector?
Oh, that was definitely Matthew, my friend.
Yeah. The guy that went after the money. That's him, man. All right. out of all the apostles, who was the last, or actually, I'm sorry, let me say that. Who was the only one that didn't die by the hand of anyone else, but just died of old age?
Out of the apostles?
Yeah.
Give me a second.
He's also one of the ones that wrote the Gospels, one of the four there.
Okay. Oh, I don't remember. Yeah, Mark didn't die by any, or no, Han, wait a second. Bro, he didn't die by anybody's hand.
Yeah, like if you think about it, all the other apostles, Peter
because
was
here's the thing, like
John
was still writing. I mean, so technically it depends because John was still writing at the end of the book.
Yeah, he wrote First John, 2 John, 3 John. Exactly. He was still alive.
But he wrote Revelations.
Yeah,
I don't know. Died by someone else's hand or just of old age. I think it was John.
Yeah, exactly. It was John. That's right, man.
Sure it was John.
Yeah, it's John. That's correct. That's correct. Yeah, he was the only one that didn't die because all the other apostles were persecuted. So they either died by, right, Peter died of crucifixion upside down. Then I think James got, with the sword. Yeah. So like everyone died by someone else's hand. Yeah. John was the only one where
I was thinking, I was like, he was on exile. John was on exile.
He was.
I was thinking, technically, is that by someone else's hand?
I was trying. No, yeah. He by the way, he was. They actually tried to boil him alive. I don't know if you knew that.
Oh, I did not.
They did. You can look it up, man. They threw him. So that was actually a punishment that existed where they boiled people alive. And some of the details or feedback that was shared in terms of the horrific scenario of people getting boiled alive, especially think about it. I mean, their skins are getting melted off. I mean, they're just getting fried, and the smell of it and the screams, right? Because it's just burning hot, right? It's not so. I don't know. I mean, I'm not here to compare deaths and which death's the worst, but he didn't die. From my understanding, he got thrown in. He didn't feel anything. So I'm just imagining, like, how frustrating is that, man? You're so malicious, and you just threw a guy in there to die, and he's not dying.
Yeah, like exile him because it's in
the yeah. All we can do is just leave you by yourself on an island. So that's John, man. But let me do last question here for you.
All right,
and we'll keep it simple. Who in the Bible do we see live the longest? Who lived the longest
in the Bible? It sounds like Methuselah, but
yeah, that's right. That's right.
Like 900 and 900.
Bro, would you want to live that long, man?
Bro, to be quite honest, bro, I'm ready to go right now, bro. I'm ready to go. Like, it's time. Like, this world is crazy.
Lord, take me. I'm going with you right now.
Hey, if it's time, bro, let's roll. Let's
That's
roll.
Awesome, man.
I think I say that with a little bit of being funny, but man, seriously, it's just if I think that the Lord was ready, I'm good. I'm fine.
No need to stay any longer. Yeah, I got you. This has been awesome, man. Where can this is really the last segment now. Where can people find you so they can continue to see how Isaac Cowden is doing, man, and God's glory in your life?
I tell you, man, literally, you can look. It's just I have kept it simple everywhere on social media platforms, bro. So you can look me up on Facebook, IG. I don't really get on Twitter a whole lot, but I have a YouTube, and you can just look me up as Isaac Cowden, ISAAC COWDEN.
Yeah.
And at any of those platforms, you should be able to find me. I usually just keep it 100 with people, and just whatever.
You got a YouTube channel?
Yeah, I have a YouTube. I post, like, I don't vlog a whole lot to it, but I want to post more videos and stuff of playing and things like that. So yeah.
Oh, bro, I'll promote it, man. I'm gonna put that in the description box, man. Don't worry. Everyone listening, so you guys can follow, subscribe to him, and the guy's a mastermind when he comes playing the keys. Oh, bro, this has been phenomenal, man. I've enjoyed getting to hear your story and getting to know you more, and being able to catch up, really, because it's been really some years. So thank you so much for being on the show today, man. It's been such an honor. Thank you so much.
You're the man, dude. Thank you, man. Just anything you need, just let me know, bro.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for watching the show today. If you enjoyed it, make sure to follow us and subscribe so you can stay up to date with the newest episodes, and follow us on all social media platforms. So check out the links below.